Good evening, welcome to the City of Lebanon Plan Commission meeting. We'll first call the meeting to order, and then we have a roll call, please.
Okay. John Lashley.
Here.
Dan Bayshore.
Here.
Kevin Krulik.
Here.
Keith Campbell.
Here.
Ashley Paddock.
Here.
Brian Tandy.
Here.
Allie Mullen.
Here.
Lori Gross.
Here.
Okay, I'd like to give you some update. There's the first three items are been put on for September 19th is Scott Barrett. It's three of those. They'll be September the 19th of 22. Okay. Could we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion we approve the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Would you give the roll call, please?
John Lashley.
Yes.
Dan Bayshore.
Yes.
Kevin Krulik.
Yes.
Keith Campbell.
Here.
Ashley Paddock.
Yes.
Brian Tandy.
Yes.
Allie Mullen.
Yes.
Lori Gross.
Yes.
Okay, the first item on the business this evening is continued from the July 18th, 2022 meeting, docket number 2250, Auburn Meadows LLC requesting a 5-year extension of their primary plat approval for Auburn Meadows subdivision. Ben?
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Good evening, commission members. Just to give you a quick recap from the last meeting, I imagine many of you are familiar with the Auburn Meadows neighborhood. This is a neighborhood that first received approval from their primary plat. Let me get my schedule out here. In 2004, they had a first phase that was approved, secondary plat in 2005 of 60 lots. Then, of course, the recession hit in 2008, so there wasn't a lot of construction of anything. So the second phase wasn't until 2016, and that was 51 lots. And then Section 3, or the Phase 3, was approved in 2020 for 47 lots. So there's a little over 100 lots left in the development. If they want to pull the screen up. Oh, I guess I got to plug it in first. How about that? All right, now let's try it. There we go. I guess I need to check my stuff before we get to the meeting. So here's the development. Everything you see in white are the phases that have already been platted, and everything kind of in this gold color is what's left. You got kind of the northeast and the southern portions of the development that are left. As we discussed last time in the Unified Development Ordinance, it indicates that the approvals for primary plats are good for 12 months. Unless the Plan Commission grants an extension of time. They did receive an extension about 4 or 5 years ago to extend it, and that has since expired. Again, as I kind of discussed last time, the ordinance isn't particularly clear about what the 12-month time period means. Does it mean that they have to plat the entire development? Does that mean they have to plat the first phase? Given the fact that it's not quite clear exactly what that 12 months means, we did bring this for an additional extension to the Plan Commission, and that's what we're here tonight to discuss. Our discussion last month ranged around the time period, and then also we had Four Star Development Representative Melissa Gerard here discussing their development to the south and seeking to try to get an easement recorded that would allow them to construct the sanitary sewer for their development to the lift station on the east end of Auburn Meadows. And so we did last month, just to finalize the recap as we did, just go ahead and move this item to this month so that they would have some time to work on that easement. I will let them fill in all the fine details on what their discussions and where they stand, but my understanding is they've got an agreement in principle on that easement, and the attorneys are working on the documents as we speak. So as soon as the attorneys from both parties get everything, all the I's dotted and T's crossed, they'll get that signed and executed and be good to go. So that's where it stands right now. They have made a lot of progress on that since the last meeting. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And they have requested a 5-year extension, and we recommend that the Plan Commission would approve that. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions from the board to Ben? Okay. Would the applicant come forward, please?
Yes, I'm Bill Tully, and when I left the meeting last month, actually, I think it was the next day, I contacted Andreoli and told him where we were at, what we needed to get accomplished, and somewhere between he and Mr. Gerard's attorneys, I think out of Atlanta, we kind of got their negligence or whatever, but it was probably a 10-day late start on it, but we have pretty well agreed, and, principle, everything is agreed. Matter of fact, I was hoping that they were going to have the final drafts so that we could get those signed tonight, but it's somewhere between Andreoli and her attorney in Atlanta, I understand, that get the final draft in principle so that we can get those signed. But Ms. Gerard can address that any further that she'd like to do so, but I think that's where we're at. I believe we're pretty well there. So we would certainly hope to get our plan approved tonight and so we can move forward.
Okay. Yeah. Any questions from the board to the applicant? Hearing none, I'll open up for public hearing.
So, based on my conversation with Mr. Tully after the meeting on July 18th, I had expected to get a call from Mr. Andreoli in the next day or two after that. I did not. I didn't hear from him at all until I finally decided on August 2nd I better poke him myself. So I sent him on August 2nd basically a summary of what had happened at the meeting last month, and the documents that I had previously sent to him in January again, and encouraged him to re-engage on that issue. He did. He gave me comments on August 4th, and I turned those around and I responded to all the comments that he had given me on August 4th. I put in a draft. We sent it back to him. I think it was sent on August 11th. As far as I wasn't aware at the time that he had any further comments. He responded to me, and then I poked them several times on Friday and to inquire whether we were in agreement on this issue and everything. And I had thought we were because I had addressed all the comments that he had given me on August 4th. But I got an email from him at 2:14 advising me that Mr. Tully would be seeking to table this matter tonight because we didn't have a deal yet, and that there were a variety of other issues he wanted to look at in the easement, even though I don't necessarily know what those are, and he didn't advise me on August 4th when he gave me his first set of comments. So I think we have a deal, but I don't know, based on this email that I got at 2:14 today that's raising a bunch of other issues that weren't raised before. So I would advocate that we go with what Mr. Tully's table had, council had suggested in the email at 2:14 today, indicating that we should table this for another month to allow us to work things out. I think we'll get there. If the issues that he's raising in this email today are not terribly more substantive than what he raised on the email of August 4th. But like I said, I think I've done everything they've asked of me at this point. It is not with our council in Atlanta right now. That's my in-house council that I have to run it by. It is with Mr. Andreoli right now. And he's had the revisions since August 11th, which were not terribly significant. There was a blank boilerplate escrow agreement and then changes to one paragraph of the easement language. So it should have been fairly easy exercise, but if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. But again, I would advocate tabling this for another month per Mr. Andreoli's email to me of 2:14.
Any questions from the board to her? I will. And anyone else to come forward who would like to speak? May not seeing any, we'll close the public hearing. Would the applicant like to come back and speak again?
I apologize, sir. Again, my hearing
That's
is
right.
absolutely horrible. Wearing these crazy hearing aids, still can't hear.
I know.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
You're fine. Are you wanting to still go for the 5-year plan, or do you want to table it?
Well, I would like to, matter of fact, I did not see that email that Andreola sent at 2-something today until just a little bit ago when I got here with Melissa. So I was really, my intent and hopes to get an approval tonight, because I think we're there on the easement, just as soon as the attorneys can get their draft done. I mean, we're certainly agreeable to sign it, so that's, I want to get moving forward with this thing, because it's going to take some time, once with your approval, to get started anyway, but that's kind of where, my position's at the moment here. I don't know where that email, because I will not be here in September, so I need to get this thing done, but we'll see what we can do here, so that's, okay. I didn't see the email until I got here tonight, so that was from Andreoli, but
So are you asking for a table of it till the next meeting, or you're wanting to go on with the 5-year?
well, if we table it, it'll need to be tabled, I guess, probably until October then.
That's right, yes.
Yeah, that,
And then that way you can see your attorney and talk it out, and everybody comes to the same page, is the way I'm looking for.
so, okay. Is that acceptable to you, Melissa? Table it till October? Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so you want to stand for a motion to table it till October?
I make a motion that we table it till October.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Would you call the roll, please?
John Leslie,
Yes.
Dan Bayshore,
Yes.
Kevin Krulik,
Yes.
Keith Campbell,
Yes.
Ashley Paddock,
Yes.
Brian Tandy,
Yes.
Ellie Mullen,
Yes.
Lori Gross.
No.
Okay. Motion carried. Thank you. We'll see you in October. Thank you. Okay. The next item on the agenda is docket number 2252, GRD Properties LLC requesting rezoning application for the properties located at 600 South State Road 39 and 650 South State Road 39. The property is currently zoned PBI, Planned Business Industrial, to plan rezoning to Planned Business Commercial. Ben?
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. This is a site I'm sure everybody's familiar with also on South State Road 39. If they want to pull up the screen, we'll just kind of give you a quick overview here. This is, I'm sure we're all familiar, is the Donaldson's Chocolate shop here, and then the second property that's here is actually a employment staffing office here. We've been in conversations with Mr. Donaldson for over the last several months, and certainly they're very aware of what the plans are for across the street for the field house development and the additional tourism that's going to bring to the area, and he's investigating investment opportunities on his site. With the site zone Planned Business Industrial right now, there are some limitations on the types of retail commercial options could go on that site. And so in discussing that with Mr. Donaldson, we decided it made the most sense to just go ahead and rezone those properties so they'd have the complete flexibility to look at the variety of commercial and retail uses that might be able to go on that site versus what would be typically required or permitted in an industrial zoning district. So that is what is before you here tonight, is seeking a rezone from Planned Business Industrial to Planned Business Commercial, and just kind of looking at criteria for the rezone. The first is consistency with the comprehensive plan. And in this case, the comprehensive plan actually indicates that this area on the west side of State Road 39 should be industrial. That being said, this site really is not an industrial site. It's not large enough, it doesn't really work for that sort of thing, and it has been more commercially oriented for a long time. So while the comprehensive plan suggests this area should be industrial, when you look at just this site, it makes much more sense from a commercial perspective. So we have suggested that it does meet the goals and objectives and policies of the comprehensive plan, even though it is shown as industrial in the future land use map. In terms of compatibility with adjacent land uses, it's essentially surrounded on three sides by Planned Business Industrial zoning. However, one of those uses is the Flying J gas station, which, while permitted industrial, is more of a commercial use. There is industrial warehouse to the west. but then to the east is the planned unit development zoning for the Hickory Junction Fieldhouse site. So that's going to be a series of sports-related uses, entertainment, hospitality, restaurants, and those sorts of things. So very much commercial-oriented across the street. So we've determined that it is the rezoning would be compatible with adjacent uses. Criteria number 3 would be desirability of the land use. And the idea here is a rezone to planned business and commercial in order to allow some investment opportunities and additional commercial uses on the property, which we have determined is a desirable land use within this proposed area. Criteria number 4 is impact on property values. And we've suggested here that the rezoning to planned business and commercial would not have a negative impact on property values of adjacent properties, and in fact, in some cases, would support the activities that take place on adjacent properties. Criteria number 5, and the last one, is responsible growth. And the area surrounding this property is a mix of both commercial and industrial uses, and future development of the Hickory Junction Fieldhouse site will increase the demand for additional commercial services. Given that the subject rezoning to, or proposed rezoning to planned business commercial would represent responsible growth and development. With that then, a staff recommendation and review of the rezoning request to planned business commercial. Staff recommends this petition be forwarded by the Plan Commission to the Common Council with a favorable recommendation. And just a quick recap of the process here. The Plan Commission's role here on a rezoning is to provide a recommendation to the council, and then the council then would look to make a consideration of that rezoning via ordinance. So Plan Commission would be a recommendation to the council, and then council would adopt a rezone. That's all I have, and I'd be happy to answer any questions on this one.
Any questions from the board to Ben?
Is there anybody in that house by chance?
No, actually, I think the house is gone, is it not, Bob? Yeah, the house is gone at
It
this
is gone,
time.
okay. Guess it's been a while since I've been out that way.
Any other questions from the board? Okay. Okay, would the applicant come forward, please?
Hello, all. I was supposed to bring chocolates, right? But I found out that wasn't appropriate for this meeting. Yeah, I don't know any questions here. We know what's going on around us, and we feel like things are going to change a bit at that interchange over the next few years. And I wanted to take some time and start to think about how we would approach that. We will be looking at some expansion opportunities for our shop, and then there's more acreage there. So there's 2.25 acres, I guess, on that site. So I was trying to work with an architect friend of mine and some civil folks to see what is possible on that site over the next few years. So nothing real immediate, but I knew that Ben said this is the thing to do, is to get it zoned now. And obviously, we need to understand the zoning requirements once we get into commercial for any kind of development design. So I've been in the development business in my career and have done retail development. So I just feel like it's time to start to look at the future for that corner and our business. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Anyone for us have questions from the board? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I will open up the public hearing. Anyone like to come forward? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Ben, you have anything else to say? Okay, I would entertain a motion on this docket number 22-52.
I make a motion that the rezoning request to planned business commercial be forwarded to the Common Council with a favorable recommendation.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Call for the roll, please.
John Leslie,
Aye.
Dan Bayshore,
Yes.
Kevin Krulik,
Yes.
Keith Campbell,
Yes.
Ashley Paddock,
Yes.
Brian Tandy,
Yes.
Ali Mullen,
Yes.
Lori Gross.
Yes.
Okay. All for yourself. Thank you. Okay, the next item is docket number 2253. SL Enterprise LLC requesting rezoning application for the property located at 1121 North 11th Street. The property is currently zoned SF2, single family, 2, requesting rezoning to planned business commercial. Ben?
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. If they want to pull up the screen here, I'll give you a quick overview of this site here. This is on North Lebanon Street. This is Dr. Cashione's dentist office, just to the north here. There is also a variety of other users in there, salon, real estate agent, those sorts of things in that building. If you recall, it's probably about a year ago, give or take, that site was also zoned SF2. And they came in and requested a rezone to planned business commercial as they were having some tenants go out and others come in. Essentially, every time that happens, if it's a new use that wasn't already in there, it would have to come back to either the Plan Commission or Board of Zoning Appeals for approvals. And so we decided it made most sense for them to go ahead and rezone it to a commercial zoning district to allow those sorts of things to happen without having to come back and ask for approvals every time. And this is a similar case, what's happening here now. Dr. Cascione is behind the investment company that has purchased this older home that you see here, highlighted here, and he's looking at some investment opportunities to rehab this structure and be able to turn it into a small commercial office space. It'll be probably very similar uses to what you're seeing to the north. And again, similar situation here. We got a situation where it's zone SF2. We could do a use variance every time the use changed and try to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Felt like it was just cleaner, made more sense to just go ahead and rezone it to planned business commercial to allow those changes to happen. One thing I think a question may be is, if we rezone a planned business commercial, could it end up being an undesirable land use at some point in the future if somebody chose to redevelop? And what's really going to limit that, one, is the size of the property. It's a quarter acre, so it's really not big enough to redevelop into something of a more substantial commercial retail use. It really can't be much more than what it is now. You wouldn't be able to redevelop and get any of the buffer yards required, any of the landscaping. There would just be so many things that would just make it a huge hurdle to try to redevelop this into something that could theoretically be undesirable land use. Keep in mind also that this is in the thoroughfare overlay district, so it does also restrict some of those undesirable land uses on primary corridors anyway. So I think the idea that this could be redeveloped in some way that would create some sort of undesirable land use here is just not possible. It's just not physically possible. So really in this area, this is one of these areas of transition where as you go further south, it becomes a little bit more residential. And this is right in an area where it's transitioning to more commercial uses in this general vicinity. So the idea of being able to repurpose this home into a low-intensity commercial office type use is something that makes sense in this area given the amount of traffic and the other things that are going on in the area. So again, just like the last one, I'll go through those 5 criteria. This one, again, consistency with the comprehensive plan. And this area is shown as residential, but we also have commercial uses that are already in this area, so it's already a mix of uses. So the idea of transitioning this to a more commercial zoning district would not be a foreign one in this area, given the variety of land uses that are here. As I mentioned, to the north, you've got a dentist and salon. To the south, it is a residential use. I think it's a rental. To the west is a commercial use. And then to the east is a residential use. Again, it is very much an area in transition from residential to commercial use, and it's right on the edge of that transition. So we have indicated that the compatibility and the consistency with the comprehensive plan, it does meet those requirements. In terms of desirability, again, the commercial use here is an area of transition, and the idea of being able to use a low-intensity commercial use as a transition use is desirable. It's almost like using a use as a buffer from a more residential use to a much more intense commercial use as you go further north. So the idea of rezoning this commercial, allow those low-intensity commercial uses within the existing structure is something that would be desirable. Criteria 4, impact on property values. Again, kind of looking at this in terms of what could be on this site. In terms of reusing the structure, and they would have to create parking spaces similar to what you see to the north. They're going to have to try to create parking spaces out here and continue that. So again, making sure they got proper parking spaces, proper space for the business there. We don't expect that that's going to have any negative impact on property values in the area given the mix of uses that's already there. And the final one is in terms of criteria is a responsible growth. Again, as I mentioned before, this is a kind of an area of transition, a mix of both residential and non-residential land uses. And the land use is consistent with surrounding land uses served by existing utilities and infrastructure. We find that it represents responsible growth and development. With that then, in summary, in terms of the rezoning request of planned business commercial, staff recommends this petition be forwarded by the Planning Commission to the Common Council with a favorable recommendation. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board?
Ben, is the property directly south is a rental? How about the one south of that? Is that actually commercial?
I believe there's 2 residential properties to the south before you get to the next street,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken. So this literally is right in the area where it's transitioning from residential to the more commercial intensive uses to the north.
Is the road that leads up to the parking lot, is that considered city?
Yeah, so if they want to bring the screen back up, this is a very unique situation that you're seeing here. So There actually is a right-of-way that runs through here between the house and then that frontage. So technically, that what is not much more than a driveway is actually public right-of-way. So those are some things we may want to take a look at that. I may look at this with Kevin and try to figure out whether that's something where we need to maintain that, whether it gets vacated and becomes private, or exactly how we'd handle that in terms of in the future, because it doesn't make sense for that to be a public street anymore. But yeah, as of right now, that road that runs across the front is in public right-of-way.
If they would develop on that in the future, you talked about parking, only because I have been in that parking lot, would there be changes? Because that in and out in that one is pretty terrible as it is from a traffic flow. With that right-of-way in that street, would there ever be interest in opening it up to?
Yeah, I wasn't here when the decisions were made of how to improve this. I believe that they intentionally kept that closed to the north, trying to get people to try to turn left out there right by the entrance there was somewhat challenging with the amount of traffic that's on the street there. So I think it was intentional to keep that closed, to try to keep the interaction of people trying to get out into that left turn lane with people coming in. It was going to be kind of a challenge to figure out because how close it is to the intersection. So
Yeah. I realize that's a step ahead, but knowing
Yeah,
the
yeah.
parking situation today in those lots, it's pretty terrible to get out in front of,
Right.
between Walgreens and
Well,
that
and
light. And
with it being so close to that signalized intersection too, no matter which way you're trying to get out, there's going to be challenges.
Yeah.
But certainly, I think the decision was made to keep that closed just because of
That
how
makes
close
sense.
it was to that intersection.
Any other questions from the members of the board? Okay. Could the applicant come forward, please?
Good evening.
Evening.
Maybe a few things that Ben was saying, I can help clarify a couple things. I think he mentioned that there were two residents to the south of this. There's a chiropractor on the very south. There's only one really residence that's being used as residence presently. So there's actually there would be three businesses at this point if you grant this on that block. And then, of course, there's the entrance to the south, which is what, Essex Street, I believe? So that's another way to come in and out and not have to go on to 39. And that street is platted as an unnamed city street and has been for many years, and I've got documentation on that. So I do have someone else who approached me and wants to put their salon in that building. That's another reason we wanted to zone it commercial, because professional office space does not allow for that. So that's what we're working towards. She's very interested in getting started in the late spring, early summer. I might also note that what we've presented and what we're planning on doing was also granted previously to another business. That was Dr. Coates back in 1989. They granted him the right to go ahead and put his practice there, put parking in the back as well as in the front.
Okay, anyone from the board have questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll open this up to a public hearing. I don't see anyone coming forward, so I'll close the public hearing, and then I'll ask for a motion. Okay? Thank you. Motion from the board.
I'll make a motion that the rezoning request for planned business commercial be forwarded to the Common Council with a favorable recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Would you call the roll, please?
John Leslie,
Yes.
Dan Bayshore,
Yes.
Kevin Krulik,
Yes.
Keith Campbell,
Yes.
Ashley Paddock,
Yes.
Brian Tandy,
Yes.
Ellie Mullen,
Yes.
Lori Gross.
Yes.
Okay. I think that Is it, right, have any other business, Ben? Okay. We're ready for another motion here.
Adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are now adjourned. Thank you.